Hi, welcome. In this video, this is part 4 of my response breakdown video series related to, again, the conversation that Bill Church had with Larry Krohn, and Joel popped on here, another trainer associated with Larry. And again, we're talking about, again, many of the kind of talking points that came up here, including the controversy involving the International Association of Canine Professionals, the president with Dylan Jones calling him out, okay, over a video that he posted. The president did of using how he used a remote call. Again, I did a video on that in terms of the problems by way, again, of, of tools that when, again, the foundation isn't right. I talk about the issue about, again, these trainers. One of the big controversies that's happened is this whole issue about punishment itself. Again, I talk about punishment, but in terms of relationship, okay, in terms of what does that actually mean, in terms of, again, I talk about influence, control at the social level. So again, you hear these trainers when they bring up certain words, understand they come from a process itself that's based on appearances. Okay, it's superficial. So the words they use to describe anything, okay, isn't going to align. Okay, understand this is all the confusion. This is where all the controversies you see in the dog training world. This is all the divisiveness. You're seeing this back and forth now, another controversy, okay, with now this association, this balance, this confused and compromised Balanced Dog Trainer Association. I talk about Balanced Dog Trainers being compromised by way of what they're marketing as a process. So again, anyone that's paying attention, okay, needs to, I would encourage you to step back and ask the questions these trainers, they don't care to ask because they're not in it the way I described. Okay, they're marketing. Okay, they're working off of appearances. So, imbalanced dog trainers, they come off like, okay, they're trying to be everything to everybody. Okay, they're playing both sides of the fence here. Okay, you see the tools they use, the clickers, Krohn with his confused narratives, rewarding bad behavior to create good behavior. I did a video on that. Call himself a purely positive, balanced dog trainer. That makes sense. Okay, with the level of compromise, right? Trying to fit in, trying to find a little niche within this idea that training is based on, again, on a learning based exercise, but based on, I talk about this choices, right? Making the dog, have a choice. But what's the context of free will and choice? I mentioned this. Once a relationship problem is underway, I did this through the Dylan Jones, put out a couple of videos talking about free will and choice. What's the context of that? And applying it to the parenting example. It all makes sense. You wonder why you end up with a bad picture of change, a counterfeit picture. Well, there you go. Okay. It's a package deal. As these trainers are engaging that way, it's causing problems for so many dogs and owners. And they just are blind to it. It's like their blind spot, based again on what they're marketing. So let's play some more of this. This is part 4. I'm going to do a few parts here to cover off some main points here. But here you're about to hear Larry Krohn talk about, this controversy with this association.
One person can recite exactly what I did. Not one person, because they watch it, but they're not really consuming it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, you allow the dog to make a choice.
That's right.
Exactly it?
So here comes up. Allow the dog to make a choice. Okay. See, this is the problem, right? It's like when a child is selfish, what does that mean? Especially if you align this at a response level where that's your focus in a very superficial way. You really have to apply critical thinking here to understand, the problems, right? But it's not rocket science. Okay. If you line this up with, if you're a parent, if you're to do what these trainers are doing, you should expect the bad picture. Okay. You should expect problems. It's just common sense. Like there's no common sense here. In fact, the problem here is these trainers they're so hardwired into this stuff. It's like they can't shake loose from it. Even the controversies themselves. I mean, here's another controversy. It doesn't cause them to step back. You would think it would, but at some point, I mean, that's why I made this prediction long time ago. These things in the dog training world are going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And these trainers, they just jump on these podcasts. They just want people to buy into this stuff. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this in the first place. So for them to say, well, we have the best interest of it, that's baloney. Okay, that's garbage, based on what they're marketing and all the problems that are being generated.
Dog made the wrong choice. I dealt with it.
So now you're saying the dog made the wrong choice I dealt with. But see, that's still within the parameters of this superficial idea called the four quadrants, right? It's still the core tenet's flawed, okay, based on its application. Understand it's like the launching of into these responses. Understand the core tenet's flawed. It's supposed to take, okay, training the pathway intervention. So interaction based, okay, is what is going to paint a real picture of change. Okay, it's what reconciles the core ingredients I talk about, influence and control at the social level. These trainers they're not following that path. Okay, so that's an open door, okay, to a counterfeit picture. Understand that.
right? And when the dog stopped making the bad choice, I didn't let her out of it. I continued. I added some social pressure. I took the leash. I said enough, and I gave her a few quick pups and did it 2 or 3 times.
See, a lot of times, so they're trying to bring, influence in, right? It's like through a correction, right? But that's oftentimes that doesn't align properly. Okay, understand it's about the right it's about the integrity of that, how influence and control are reconciled in a very specific way. Okay, at a intentional interaction based method. Okay, that's what reconciles those core ingredients, not balanced training.
And she's like, holy shit, he's really mad at me, right? I'm like, hey, we good? And then I let her know, okay, now we're good. We're back to baseline. We're going back to normal. I'm going to give you another shot at this, and I'm not mad at you, right?
That's right. That's
Like
right.
the shit that people are doing. The reason I spoke up, Bill, with the IACP stuff.
And same thing here. Now he's about to talk about the IACP. But if you go in again, if you're part of my member area, I encourage you to go. And I did a very lengthy series of the conversation between himself and Ivan Balabanov, who's, he's in the mix of all this stuff. And they pump this guy up. Okay, I talk about the whole play-based training, okay, in terms of, again, those core ingredients. Are they reconciled or not? Well, the first clue that they're not is the name of the training method itself, training without conflict. Okay. I mean, understand it's, following the path of a power play in terms of the core ingredients, in terms of relationship, there's going to be conflict. Okay. Understand there's no way around it, but there appears to be, right? And this is the themes of bribery, accommodation, negotiation. That door is still completely open to perceptive dogs not changing. I talk about all the relational dynamics going on here. Okay. Even in terms of people's own personal dogs, even what extends beyond an idea of things in terms of influence and control by way of relationship itself. But I understand these trends are not dialed into certain relational dynamics that way. Okay, that's the problem here. They're not. So, but here, you have this whole thing about we talk about choices, free will. Understand that's a big deal to understand the context of that once a relationship problem is underway.
I don't make a lot of negative comments on people's stuff unless you're harming a dog. I just don't, right?
So that's the thing, going back kind of rabbit trailing here, but on my member area, there's a lengthy conversation between him and Ivan. I did a extensive breakdown series. It's interesting because the moment where Krohn is actually talking about his journey as a trainer, his encounter with people using remote collars a certain way, and these dogs screaming, right? And then, he went, a certain direction in terms of his idea about training, but at the same time, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, talk about a specific way in which those core ingredients are reconciled. Otherwise, if you don't get this right, understand you'll end up in a place where that door is open. Understand it's very specific as that those core ingredients are reconciled. So these trainers in their journey, you hear them back and forth between balance and force free balance, but not getting it right, not landing at that spot. That's what matters, is landing at the right spot here.
But when you're looking at an organization, it's our NRA, right? IACP is to us what the NRA is to guns. It's very important. And when I see someone putting out training videos and you're the training director, I don't know.
And the interesting thing too is he's drinking bourbon on this pot. Like he reminds me of Christopher Upton. The more the drinks are flowing, the more the trash talk increases. And you'll see it here. You watch this whole thing. The trash talk says bringing up names and stuff.
That individual. I know everyone tells me he's a really nice guy. I'm sure he is. But you have a responsibility that if you're putting something out there under the umbrella of the IACP, you better know what you're talking about. And that.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a balanced dog trainer, okay, you don't know what you're talking about anyway. I mean, it's not meant to be a cheap shot, but it's like they're compromised. Okay, understand they're compromised. So, he's saying you better know what you're talking about. What does that even mean? Okay, I understand that. Like, just look at the video content I'm putting out. These trainers are all over the place. They contradict themselves. They're putting out these narratives that are completely upside down. All these controversies, and then he's saying you better have your act together. What does that even mean? To balance training?
Shit was so wrong in every way. And that's why I wasn't the only one. People were glad I said something, because the people that know, that have learned from the right people, are going, this is awful. Like, this isn't even close to being truthful. Right. And it's
Yeah.
not. And that's why I stay busy all year long. We all stay busy all year long because people want to learn this stuff.
See, people, and he comes off like, and if you watch this podcast, he tries to frame up some of the stuff he mentions before, like some sort of secret, magical thing that he can't talk about, like some of the training, like he won't talk about certain things, right? If you watch his videos, I mean, a lot of it is like the 75-foot long line going on, and these narratives. So I talk, you're wearing a bite suit to allow a dog to express control. I talk about all this confusion, right? But see, that's the thing, trying to package this up. See, this is the thing about trying to play the fence. It's like working off it. You can work that angle and be busy, but the wrong way. Okay, understand? I talk about all these trainers, Zach George. He's got so many followers, and see, it's you get this whole thing about what's going on here with what's being exploited and these trainers, how they're playing the fence and exploiting certain relationship dynamics. You see why the dog training world it's just a free for all. It really is. It's a free for all. And I talk about there is truth, there is a standard. These trainers are not aligned with that at all, right? So because when you confront them, you ask yourself the question, how do they respond to that? How are they responding to all these controversies, right? They're trying to still make right here. You're still trying to play it. They say, oh, we're still busy. It's trying to always play it instead of saying, okay, what's the real problem here? You won't hear them do that.
And the people that learn it go, holy shit. The same way I understood punishment before I took Ivan's course, before I learned from Ivan, but I knew there was stuff I was missing that I could do better. I tell this story all the time.
So I pump Ivan up throughout this whole podcast. Go watch the video. And I dealt with a copyright situation strike involving Ivan. That video I put out because he had video ups to talk about, respond to the real problem in terms of force-free training. So I responded to it by way of a video. It's information based. I didn't say anything on there. There's no cheap shots against Ivan at all or anything, and that generated through Ivan a copyright strike. But the same content. Now, I went on Miracle Canine. Here's the incredible thing: the same exact video that I use under fair usage. Now, everything's over on Rumble, so you're gonna find those videos over on Rumble. But YouTube very much. I think they've changed somewhat here, but very much was like kind of very much about censorship. In fact, when I challenge that copyright, they just basically say, well, if anyone says anything, we just don't want to deal with it. We'll just follow this path. Like they just like hands off type of thing. But the situation shows you the hypocrisy in that situation was that same video that I used in the fair usage, Miracle Canine, David from Miracle Canine, they used a lot more of it under the same. They did you go see it's still up on their channel. I used like 4 minutes, I think. They used like 20 minutes of that thing. And I didn't have any trouble with that. It's still up on their channel. So talk about the hypocrisy. In fact, I brought that up. If you go look at the debate, I raised that point on the podcast. And even David said, yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay. So here you have training. See, so if you're so confident in what you're saying, why the copyright strike? Right? It just shows you. But again, I go into this whole thing about play-based training. You can go watch the videos are on my Rumble channel. I talk about that approach.
And then when we got deep into the punishment stuff in the course, and I saw Ivan do something that I used to teach at seminars, I don't do it too much anymore, the stuff Joel was talking about. When we got to that part and someone else that took the course before me had explained it to me in a very good way, I literally called him immediately. I said, motherfucker, that's it. He's like, what's it? Like, that's the part I was missing. I knew all these years. And here's the thing, what I was doing was working and working well.
See, this is that whole thing here. So if you watch the podcast, this whole kind of generalization thing. It's just like, oh, that fits it. Don't get into specifics about it, too much anything.
Without being heavy-handed on the dog, but I knew there was something better because I'm a perpetual student. Not like these other fucking
It's like, well, in order to learn what it is, you got to take the course.
phonies out there that just keep working on their social media. I'm a student, so I knew there was something I could do better
Social media. This guy's on social media like all over the place. What's he talking
because
about?
there's always something we could do better. And when I took that from Ivan, I said, "Oh my God, this is going to be it." Here's the problem: the first time.
So here's the thing, and I talk about this. Like they're okay with everything, right? As long as they're within their ideological comfort zone. Understand? Even the conversation he had with Ivan, where it turns into a type of interrogation, and you see Ivan tries to elevate himself up, but when that conversation between him and Ivan got started, Larry was trying to pump him up. Ivan, so this is all about just trying to pump each other up, pat each other in the back, trying to work off of each other, but still within their ideological comfort zone. This is why, again, they can't even call it force-free trainers. I talk about this because they're in agreement with approaching training as a learning-based exercise. This is why, again, the conference, they actually have force-free people speaking at the conference. Like, think about that. And then they put out videos trying to call out. I mean, it's so ridiculous. They can't call out that what you're in agreement with. And see, this is the problem in the dog training world. It's just like what you're getting served up here is coming out of the same pot. Okay, they're trying to pretend like you're getting a different flavor or a different meal or something. You're not. Okay, they're just adding a little bit of pepper on it, saying, "Okay, here you go. It's totally different." It's not totally different. They just add a little pepper on it, a little bit of. They sprinkle a little bit of punishment on it, but it doesn't line up anyway. It's still out of the same pot of idea that trains a learning-based exercise. It's still gonna make you sick. Okay, it's still gonna generate a bad picture. Understand that. It's the same pot.
I did it, he came to a seminar I was doing in Florida, and I had to do it in front of him. And I was terrible. And I said, "That was awful. What could I do better?" He goes, "No, that wasn't bad." I go, "No, yes, it was. Don't."
So just again, the same virtue signaling nonsense. So I'll stop part 4 here. Again, I'm gonna skip through here and focus on some of the talking points that this whole controversy again and this association, things are just falling to pieces. I mean, because that's what's coming. That's where we're at. Understand the confusion. Because understand when you embrace a lie, this lie that trains a learning-based exercise, which again, the fallout from it, there's going to be consequences. There's going to be the confusion. There's going to be divisiveness. There's going to be this personal attacks. There's going to be all of it because it's not based on the truth. And there's even that saying that's been around since the beginning. There's more than one way to train a dog is based on appearances. Is based on this lie. There's not more than one way to train a dog. There's more than one way to be deceived based on appearances. Okay, that's it. So thanks for watching. I'll be putting out a part 5 here shortly.